All right, we're live. Annie, what's up?
Hey, Rich. Doing well. How are you?
Good, good. Yeah, I'm excited to kind of dive into this. This race seemed really serious. I Spartan hasn't posted the female race, have they yet?
I haven't seen it. No, I saw that they posted the men's and like started watching that, but that's all
Y-
I've seen.
They got a full hour of the men, so it seems like they're doing like a lot. They must have caught a lot of coverage. Um,
Yeah.
they had the drones out there. Did you see them? Were they like in your way?
Yeah, they were everywhere, especially at the start. I mean, you see them like flying all over.
Yeah, I always thought that'd be a good way to do it, but I guess the battery life's pretty bad. Like it's only like 30
Yeah.
minutes of battery or something like that.
Yeah, I've looked into drones a lot actually. I got one for like a week once and it ended up like flying straight into a wall. And so I took it back. I was like, this doesn't work. So I really want one, but there's like no good options right now.
Was it like one of the ones that would follow you?
Yeah, yeah, I wanted to get it for climbing.
Yeah,
And I took it on a trail run and it went straight into
right into a
a
wall.
wall.
I was thinking like the same thing for just like training content to have and like follow things for runs and workouts, but they're pretty expensive if you want anything that's like decent.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the battery life is pretty poor.
Yeah.
One day they'll get there. So how are you feeling? How are you physically feeling after that? We're recording this on Tuesday, so it's been a couple of days. You ran the sprint as well, so you had two chances to get at that course. So how are you physically holding up?
Still pretty beat up. Yeah, more so than usual, I think, after that race. Like my whole lower legs are just trashed from, I think, just all the terrain and like nasty mud and everything. Just like my calves, my ankles, my shins even are just like pretty fired up.
Interesting.
So,
Do you think that's because it's because I mean the elevation gain was more in Utah, or is it about the same? All things considered,
um, I actually don't know. It was a lot. It was like I think 4,000 or something.
that is a lot, and but just more up
So
and down, right?
it just constant up and down. And to me, like I think the most frustrating part of this race was I never really felt like I was running. Like I
Uh,
felt like I was just, you know, stumbling the entire time. I mean, the first couple miles are pretty runnable, but then like once you hit, I want to say that first sandbag carry, or maybe even before that, like there's a chunk of like probably 10 miles of just pretty relentless like woods and slippery rocks and creek crossings. And at one point I think I was waist deep in orange mud. Like it was so gnarly. Like, and I'm just not used to that. It's so hard to train for that. And like I was just getting super frustrated.
it's almost the opposite of what you have on the West Coast, right? Where
Totally.
everything is dry and hard, packed dirt,
Totally.
kind of. So, what did you think about the course in general? I mean, since it was a little bit out of what you potentially prepare for, what did you? And but you did West Virginia in 2019, right?
Yeah.
So you've been on this course before. Was it what you remembered, or did you like it more or less, or how did you feel about the course in general?
It was much tougher from what I remembered. I mean, I didn't have a great race in 2019, but like I remember it being much more runnable than it was this past year. I think a lot of that had to do with just the humidity and
Mm.
like being to me it hit me like a ton of bricks. Like right out the gate I was just like not feeling great. I felt like this like bit of nausea from the start, which I never get. Like I never feel like that. So it was just kind of not great for me like physically. And then just because they've been getting all this rain like constantly for the past few weeks, I think everything was just so saturated that in 2019 I don't remember it being this slippery and this like muddy. And for me, like I feel like I'm decent at technical stuff, but once it gets super slick like that, I'm just like I was just sliding all over the place, rolling my ankle, like just feel like I didn't have traction on anything. It was just rough.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't remember it being too nasty in 2019 either. I remember just like, I don't even remember it being that bushwhacky. I know there was woods, but and the wetness that year was mostly like the morning dew or just like the humidity
Yeah.
and things like that. But I don't remember it being, I don't think they got a tremendous amount of rain leading into that. So would you say that like that was like your least favorite part about it? Just that it was so slick and just like hard to run over like the wet logs or wet like sticks and rocks and things?
I think so, yeah. Like, as you know, I've been having some, like, ankle issues to begin with, so it didn't take long for me to just be in pretty bad pain, like, with
Mm.
my ankles just turning over constantly, and it was just yeah, just frustrating. Like, I'm fine having sections with that, like, I think it's pretty fun, like, I really enjoyed the mud and stuff in Jacksonville, actually, but, like, to have such a long part of the race be like that, and on top of it, like, I was on my own for after I, like, whiffed the belt early on, I never saw any of the elite women till the end, and so,
Huh.
like, to be out in the woods in no man's land, like, dealing with that crap, it was just tough, like,
Yeah.
I just didn't feel like I was racing anymore. I was like, I don't know how far ahead people are, I don't know like, who's behind me or how far they are, so I didn't have, like, any, like, big fire lit to, like, catch anyone or be chased by anyone. It was just kinda, like, getting through it.
Yeah, I've been in those circumstances before where I just like I'm not sure how hard of a time people are having in front of me or behind
Yeah.
me. It's like I don't. It's hard to know how you're doing. So I get what you mean by like feeling like you're in no man's land there. And so let's talk about that because I mean what I did see was what Spartan did have on their Instagram and going into the race, there was a little bit of a pack with
Yeah.
like how did the opening pack turn out? Because I didn't see any coverage until the stairway. That was the first time I saw anything of the race at all, which was pretty early, right? That
Yeah.
was that even like a mile, like 2 miles in? Yeah, not even.
Probably yeah, probably, like, a mile and a half in,
Yeah,
something
it looks
like
like it was
that.
right before the second mile. So how was the race playing out? It looked like you were like where you typically would be, and at
Yeah.
Stairway to Sparta, you it seemed like you're the only person who did it. Like you got up and over it, and I was like, oh my god, it's happening again. Like you just kind of did you just find yourself in first place after Sparta?
Um, I actually was leading the race until, right before that. We went out what I felt like probably the slowest start that I can remember in recent times, and
Huh.
like even slower than Utah, which really like kind of threw me off in a way because I wasn't expecting that. Or maybe I was just a little like excited, and so
Just
to
getting
me,
fit.
yeah,
You
maybe like I don't know
just
what it was, but like I kind of knew what we had in store in this course later on. And like a lot of it doesn't really play to my advantage. So I think I got a little bit antsy and sorry, um, just, just wanted to kind of like make a little bit of a gap there, knowing like the first few miles were really dense with the obstacles. So like in case there was going to be like fighting for lanes or anything, I wanted to be sure I like got ahead. So
Mhm.
or pretty early on I just kind of like made a little bit of a gap, and then right before stairway was like a little bit of a technical section where that's where Lindsay had caught me, and then um
I think Rose was right
yeah,
there too.
and then Rose was behind her, I think. Yeah, so then yeah, it's funny, like, I got over that obstacle, and immediately after is the box, like, very little running in between, and I saw that they had opted for the penalty loop, and by the time I was on top of the box, they were at the obstacle, and I was like, "Jesus," like, I used all my strength to get up that friggin' stairway, and then,
Yeah.
like, they had already caught me. It was kind of frustrating, and then I think yeah, we can get into that later, but, like, when I was doing burpees, like a few minutes later was just so defeating because I was like, God damn it, like I could have whiffed the bell on one of these like little tiny penalty loops, and yet here I am doing burpees.
I felt that exactly. I didn't even think about that. Like for the most part, I'm like, okay, good. Penalty loops make sense just because it takes the subjectivity out of the burpees and getting burpee penalties. Getting like, have you ever had a time penalty given to you because of burpee form or anything?
Yes.
It's like, what? Like, how are you supposed to even like, and it's just like the volunteer's word and just kind of comes out of nowhere. And like, it's a bummer. So like when they're putting these penalties, it's like, okay, great. That makes sense. It's going to take that all out. But now these penalties are not even. It's like, why is
it's random?
It's random. Like for you missing beater, and which I would say, which is certainly a more failable obstacle than Stairway to Sparta in a typical race, you know, but their penalty for failing a less difficult obstacle was less than failing a difficult one. It was just like, then that doesn't make it fair at all. I was like, that's 30 that's that. So I never thought about it that way until it happened in that moment. I was like, oh, this isn't fair. This is crazy. Why would that be that way? So I'm sure that you were also, was that going through your mind? Did you think that?
Yeah, 100%. Because like there were multiple obstacles really early on that were very quick penalty loops, like I think Olympus. Can't remember which other ones, but
there was box, Twister.
5 obstacles that had like a quick, easy penalty loop, and then beater just happened to be the one like, like you said, like more failable obstacle that happened to be burpees, and like it was just like a silly thing, and it was just frustrating.
Yeah. At that point, were you? So you were in second at that point, right? Lindsay had gone past you at wherever that was going on after box. Was it
carry?
Oh, okay. Is that where that like she caught up at log carry?
She made a big gap on me because I swear it's like we got in that water and I'm right behind her, and I immediately fell over. Like I just like chose a bad line. I was like tripping and falling, and like I almost dropped the log several times. And I swear she just like pranced through it like a
walking
gazelle.
right over water.
Like, what is going on? I'm like trying my best to like be in line with her, and she's not tripping at all. I'm just like falling over. So yeah, she made a pretty big gap.
That same kind of thing happened on the men's race, because that was part of the race that did catch. Batris was leading the race at that point, and he was like in the middle of the lane and was like chest high in water, and like Logan was all the way hugging the rope, and he was like on his ankles, and he just like walked right past him, and Mark's like falling over, dropping it. He's having a terrible time. Must have been the same exact experience that you had. So that's so she got away there, and then beater is not until, so how much further is beater? I don't even see it on this. When was that?
It wasn't.
It's not on this list.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. It wasn't on the map. I don't remember actually like where that was in relation. Probably pretty close.
Yeah. Was it after like pipe layer and all that?
It was right after pipe layer.
Okay.
I wonder if this is on camera or not, but they always make fun of pipe layer being like one of those like just stupid obstacles. And I, of course, I mean, not that this is a failure, but like getting out of pipe layer, I tripped on the last like bar and just like face plant into the grass. Like I'm just like fully on my stomach and get up and do that silly thing. I think that might be also part of the reason why I just went into beater like a little shooken up. From like face planting a second before.
It was just that kind of day. If pipe layer is going to give you a problem, it's a tough day ahead. So I think probably most people did see it, at least on Instagram, and like they kind of ran it back a couple times. ORM ran it back a bunch, right? Did you see how they kind of put it up? And so you went through it and you looked great going through it. The way that you were going, just like monkey swinging through it. Most people, I don't think, were opting for that on those obstacles. Did you do the same thing for the monkey bars earlier, or did you match on those? You did the same thing?
I felt good. Like Yeah, my obstacle game has been feeling really good. Like on Twister, which actually Twister did a little bit. I didn't feel great about that in Asheville. I think I just like chosen a bad lane or something. On Saturday, like I flew through Twister. I was skipping like most of the rungs, and one of the volunteers was like, "I think you just made up 20 seconds on Lindsay on this one obstacle." So it was like, I think I also was feeling pretty good
It
with
looked
my
like it.
obstacles, and just trying to like take advantage of that. Like any few seconds that I can gain on an obstacle is like, you know, seconds that like matter later on when it gets all technical and I'm not as great at that stuff. So so yeah, I was just trying to like take any seconds I could get early in that race, and then it just led to a stupid error. Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, but when you're at the level of being podium contention, those seconds matter, right? And like,
totally.
and it seems like the way you go through it takes a little bit less energy. Do you ever bent arm match? Is that like something you need to do?
I have done that on beater before. That obstacle used to freak me out because I failed it the first couple times I did it. I think it also used to be way harder.
The first time it rolled out in Jacksonville in 2019, were you at that? Were you at that race?
No, I wasn't, but I was at one of the early races where they had it.
They made the reach like incredibly too long.
I think far.
Yeah, I think Nicole that race was the only person who managed to get through it.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you're able to kind of get through it the way that you're swinging through it, it does look a little bit more efficient. And talk about the gloves, because what kind of gloves were those that you're wearing?
They were Gorilla Grip gloves, which a lot of the girls use, and I think they're great.
It seemed like they were working pretty well. It felt confident to swing with a straight arm on it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it felt good on, I would say, all the metal obstacles. And then I think what I liked it the most for were things like the Atlas carry, just like having like a little bit more of a grip, because everything was so muddy and wet and like dewy. So stuff like that, I really liked having them. They do get really hot. Like you get hot wearing them, but
do they not get soaked? I mean, when they get wet, do they not just get slick?
They do. So like by the time the swim came around, my gloves were off. Like I wasn't gonna put them back on after that, but yeah, I think I had them on. I did take them off for Z-Wall just because I don't like how they feel on those kind of things, but I kept them on for Olympus, kept them on for most of the first like 3-ish miles of that race. I had them on. Yeah.
So going through beater, let's stay here with that. Like, so there was one last bar, right? Did you just see it? Did it seem like obviously in the moment it seemed like it was reachable, right?
Yeah, it was just one of those like misjudgments. I think I usually skip that bar because I usually have a lot of momentum going through that obstacle. I think maybe I just was a little more cautious and didn't have quite the same amount of swing as I usually do. But it definitely has me second guessing. Like, I think it shook me a little. Now I'm gonna probably be a little more cautious, especially when it's wet like that. Rebuild my confidence on all of it. I think that this happens to everyone at some point. That's what everyone keeps saying to me. But it's like, it definitely shakes you a little, just like knowing you could feel so confident about something and then you just make it's like a race brain kind of thing.
It's just one of those OCR things. You know, something can go wrong. And Riker said that exact same thing we were talking about. We were kind of following the race as it was happening. He's like, yeah, it's like a rite of passage. You just like have to whiff it at one point. Was that the first time you've whiffed a bell?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. I've missed in situations where I've given like a last ditch effort, like where I was like, I might not get there, so I gotta go. Yeah. But never like how like you're feeling good, you're cruising through, you're like, let's keep running, and then just that's tough. So we talked about the burpee part, and then pretty much that's kind of where your race just not ended, but sort of like you're kind of in no man's land then, because Rose and Alex, they must not have been too far behind you at that point.
Right. Yeah, I was halfway through my burpees when they both came through at the same time. And yeah, by the time I finished burpees, like I couldn't see them. I didn't even see them. Like, I think I saw Lindsay at one point, like she was coming back, you know, that out and back on the bridge
Yeah.
part? I think she was coming back, which like that's a pretty long area. Like I knew that was going to be tough to make up that much ground because you have an obstacle on the other side and then still have to run all the way back. But I somehow missed Rose and Alex in between that section. So I don't know how far ahead they were, but like I kept passing people who were saying like, it's a long race, like just keep your head in the game, chip away at it. But like, it's easier said than done. Like sometimes I find that like if I fail something, it almost gives me like a little bit of an extra like fire to push harder throughout the race. But I think when it happens so early on and like you never know how far back you are, it's like almost tougher because you still have to conserve. Like you're not gonna like go all out to try and catch these people with over 10 miles left in the race.
Right.
Like, you gotta make a decision there. So
that's the race that you were in at that point, right? It wasn't like the situation Lindsay was in when she was chasing you in Asheville. She missed and she's like, well, I have no choice but to go as hard as I can. And there's like 3 miles left. So if I die, I die, whatever.
Right.
It wasn't like the race that you were in, you were still in a big, long beast and trying to make sure. And there was a lot of stuff. And like the people who race, like in the Asheville race, everybody missed obstacles, right? So there was a chance that people were going to miss and you'd make, if you were just conservative and being able to kind of catch up and make and strike in those moments. Did anybody in front of you miss in obstacles later on? How was Herkhoist for you guys?
Herkhoist was ridiculously heavy.
Yeah.
I remember Sunday stands out to me more than Saturday. It's just like I thought I might not get it up. Saturday it took a lot of effort, but like it was fine. It just felt like you would make like a big pull, but then it would like drop a little each time, which like never happens to me. So I was just like, oh my God, am I just so weak right now? Or is this thing like 1,000,000 pounds? Like it was like lifting me off of the fence, which like I don't think has ever happened. So
was it slipping through your hands or were your hands still pretty? Did you use the gloves for that or no?
No, this was right after
point. It's after the swim.
Yeah. So it wasn't the like ropes were dry. I have had races where the rope is wet and that adds a whole nother challenge, but these were dry. It was just so heavy, like ridiculously heavy. Yeah.
I heard that. And the guys in like Logan missed, Batris missed his. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm sure there's others later in the race that also missed some, but yeah, that was probably an unexpected surprise after this one. How was the swim for you? Did you see anybody doing the swim? Were they out of the water when you got in?
So I heard that Rose and Alex were still in the water when I got in. I never saw them. Like I was kind of just focused on myself it took a while. Like I never went back and looked at the data, but like I would say it was between 5 and 10 minutes to swim.
It's crazy.
So like even if they were still in the water, they could still be like at least 5 minutes ahead.
Like a mile ahead of you.
Yeah. But the swim was fine. It actually like it was so freaking hot that like I needed it so bad. Like getting in that water was such a relief. And I just kept like going under the water to just try and cool off. Yeah.
I wonder if that's why they put that. I mean, it's certainly a challenge, right? And in the men's race, Mark Gaudet made up a bunch of time. He got it in 6th and passed 2 people in his swim. So like, and Veerman made a move on that. And sorry, I'm just referencing the guys' race. It's the only thing I was able to see so far. But so moves were made. Like it is, but I wonder if they put it in there because they know it's so hot. Like that race is so long and it's such a terrible time of year that it's going to just be brutal. Maybe they are just looking out for you. Maybe. How did you swim through it? Were you just like Freestyling,
Yeah,
backstroke.
I did like just front stroke with like very minimal kicking, just trying to like not cramp, try to like relax and breathe as much as I could. I'm not a great swimmer, so like there were plenty of people who were moving faster than I was, I'm sure, but I just keep moving. Like as long as you're not hanging around like doggy
Doggy
paddling,
battling.
like I
Yeah.
think you're probably not gonna make up or lose a ton of time.
Yeah.
I'd imagine. So
Well, you had some pool time during your injury last year, so
yeah.
just all prep,
Yeah.
all prep.
Yeah.
And then in the later stuff, I mean, it's just a bummer. Like it's hard to have like really a race breakdown when you were just by yourself.
Yeah.
But nailed your spear.
Yep.
So what are you thinking now in terms of, so Tahoe's next, right?
Tahoe is next, like praying that it happens.
Yeah. What do you think? Oh, like just wildfires and COVID stuff. There's two things here that might deter it. It's not great there right now, right?
It's not. I mean, the fire is rapidly like approaching that area right now. I think it's spread like 20 to 30 miles in the past couple days north. So they evacuated like the southwest portion of the lake, like all those towns.
Wow.
And I think it's like 15% contained at this point. So I'm worried about it for sure. I mean, this whole state's struggling right now. So it's going to be.
In your experience being there because I catch what I can catch and I follow it, but it's not like it doesn't affect my air quality. Like I can't see it. Nothing changes. Like I catch what's going on in the news, but I don't feel it the way that you might there. What is it typically like? Like how long do these things? I know like they're so hard because they're so like you can't really, they're unpredictable. But in your experience, like how long can this thing be going on typically?
Oh, I mean, it totally depends on the weather. So like with it being such a dry year, we're just like it's just igniting. Like it's so dry and you get any sort of like wind or like the right like the right conditions and everything just ignites. So it's definitely concerning. I think I really just think it's gonna keep burning until we get any sort of precipitation, which typically up there it would be in the next few weeks would be like the first probably storm. So whether it be like rain or snow, I don't know. But so I think until that happens, we're kind of in a tough spot. So
yeah, it's scary and it's sad but yeah, it snows. It snowed the past couple times we had the race in Tahoe.
Yeah.
Every time I go there, it's like 1,000,000 degrees, 100% humidity here. Go to freaking Tahoe. It's snowing, freezing cold. No way to prep for that. So if you do the race over, not leaving out beater, like what do you think you would have done to improve on this, or what do you look back on the race and think that you could have done better?
Yeah. A lot of it was just my mental game. Like I think I just didn't have it. Like I just didn't have the fight as much as I usually do. I just felt like I was getting punched over and over, like by the terrain and then the like freaking bees and the like,
yeah. How many you got? You say you got stung 4 times?
Yeah, and they like I have welts like all over my leg. They're so itchy, but like when you itch them, they hurt. It's like the worst thing ever. And yeah, just like
really?
it was like misery, to be honest. Like I've never wanted to drop so bad in a race. But every time like I had this huge urge to drop, I was like out in the middle of the woods where I was like, even at this point to like get me back to the festival would be like, I don't even know where I am. So
your best bet is just to run there, follow the flags.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just one of those things. Like I think I think that venue will always be tough for me because there's just so many factors that I find it difficult to like prepare for, like between the weather, the humidity, the terrain, the mud, like unless you're living and training out there, it's really, really tough. But yeah, gotta work on the mental side too, I think.
Yeah, it's certainly, I mean, the course is certainly going to be more advantageous for an East Coaster. It's
Totally.
just an East Coast race, like through and through. So you say that with the mental piece, but you took the race out, right? You engaged in it early. Why do you think that mentally you weren't in it?
I just think like it was one of those, something went wrong and I didn't handle it the way as well as I wanted to. Like I kind of like let it slip and didn't have like a fight in me to reel it back in. Like I know I'm capable of it. I know that like having had that happen so early in the race, it should have been almost easy for me to reel it back in. Like I don't really get why I let it get so bad, but it just happened.
I was just the woman I had on the podcast that released earlier this week, Rachel Vonderak, who is a CrossFit athlete and a hybrid race athlete. She had a chance to go to the CrossFit Games. She was like in this event and was doing really well, and then had one event that just like completely ruined her chances. Like, and she said during it, she just like melted down essentially because it was something that she envisioned, but then didn't know how to handle it once it was there. And it was something that she's never experienced before. And this is the first obstacle you've missed, I think, this year that wasn't the spear.
Yeah, probably.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know, it's a learning experience from that perspective, right? Because you think you would be able to do what you wanted to do in those moments, but then when it hits you, it's like adjusting like your mindset and being able to go through it. So have you been thinking about that since then?
Yeah, I've been thinking about it and trying to like figure out what about it was just not working that day. And I think I don't think it was all my like mental game. I think like I wanted to push, and there were like only very few sections that I felt like I could push. Like it would be like I'd want to, start closing the gap, and all of a sudden it'd be this like treacherous downhill where we cross a river, and I would fall on my face and like have to get back up, and it was just a constant like this and that and whatever. So yeah, I mean, I like to think that it's like gonna fuel me a little bit more in this next few weeks of training. So
for sure, like your fitness is there, and if anything, it's just going to make you more prepared for when it happens next time.
Yeah,
because it'll happen again at some point.
Yeah,
totally. Cool. So we got Tahoe next, potentially, then Big Bear, right? Mate, Big Bear for sure.
Big Bear, yep. Yeah.
It's been a season. This is a grind. This seems like it's been a grind.
It has. Like I feel like the past, like since Utah, it's kind of just been like this whirlwind of like race, recover, and then race again, and recover and race. Like I don't feel like I've really been like training. It's been just kind of like trying not, like I've had like little tiny injuries popping up here and there, and like trying to like keep those at bay while still like maintaining fitness, and like, and each of the races are pretty different. So like you're not really, it's like been hard for me to try and switch gears so quickly. Asheville and West Virginia were kind of similar, but I really didn't struggle much with the Asheville course like I did in West Virginia. Even the humidity and stuff didn't feel nearly as bad. So it was like, I thought I came in like, okay, I'm gonna do well in West Virginia because like Asheville felt pretty good to me, and nope, it was just like slap you in the face kind of thing. And Like knock
Yeah.
you down when you're already down. Like
Stingy with bees.
yeah.
That's I thought that was going to be the case too, that the Asheville race was going to be a parallel to this, but it seemed like a lot of people were struggling. I saw like hundreds of burpees people were doing, like multiple penalty loops, like just really having a terrible time. A terrible time. But yeah, I always would complain about the length of the Spartan season. That's like February to September or whatever is pretty insane. But at the same time, the way that it's now, it's like, yeah, they're jamming 4 races from, when was Utah? That was like July, wasn't it?
It was like end of July, I think.
Yeah. So yeah, you've had 3 races in a month pretty much, and then another one in another 3 weeks.
Right.
So it's like 4 races just
longer,
like jammed in. So it's probably better the longer way with more time in between, because this seems like, yeah, I would love for you to have a break, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, that was why, like, I really was kind of leaving West Virginia. Well, so originally, like when Asheville wasn't part of the race series.
oh, right.
I had West Virginia on the calendar. But once they put Asheville on the calendar, I was like, you know what? I want to have a longer break before Tahoe, like, and get really geared up for that, because it's a beast. Like, that's a tough course, and you got to be prepared in all the ways. So like, I was thinking like West Virginia might not be worth it to travel out to, between the travel, and like, it's not super cheap to get out there from the West Coast and all this stuff. I was like, it's not worth it. But yeah, I got talked into it, and now I'm like, was that the right move? Like, should I have just stuck with like what I felt was the right move? So it's tough to say. Like, I think I definitely learned a lot in that race, but like, I definitely set me back a little bit. Like, this week at least isn't going to be, I'm not going to get a ton of quality stuff in. So we'll see.
Yeah. And at this point, there's nothing you can do but to continue to push forward. And everybody else is pretty much in the same boat. You know, most of the people did go out to that race, and you've just been on fire. You're like, let's keep racing. Let's keep going. Well, cool. Anyway, well, I appreciate you taking time. I know your post, and you posted that you're like, oh, it's kind of I don't know what the word you said. Not disappointing. Did you say disappointing? Something along those lines.
It wasn't disappointing. It was like, I don't know. What was the word you used? Bittersweet, I think. Like, it was. Yeah. I don't know what I said, but like, I'm not thrilled about it. Like, I'm not thrilled with some of the, way that I handled it. But at the same time, like, I pushed through. Like, it was still very, very much like a suffer fest, and I like kept grinding away until like, kept. Like, if I had dropped, like, I would be putting myself in a worse position than if I had just pushed through, because like, ultimately I raised my like series score overall. So there's plenty of good that came out of it for sure. But yeah, it was just a bummer. And like, I felt like I made some silly mistakes, and then like my mental game wasn't like as great as I'd wanted it to be. And,
Right. And it's like, we talk about it a lot. It's like, people will see your outcome. You got 4th. I don't even think we said that. You got 4th. And people see the outcome. It's like, that's amazing. That's so good. Like, yeah, you did better in the series and this and that. But like, the way that you're talking about how you felt in the race after is kind of what the bitter of the bittersweet is, right? Not necessarily not necessarily missing obstacle, how you placed or anything like that, but just like how you felt during it. So I get what you're saying for sure. Well, cool. Well, we'll see you in Tahoe potentially. Fingers crossed. So thanks for joining.
Thank you.